Hi. If you've been a part of the TikTok Creators Followers Club, where you like, share, and follow people's TikTok accounts and they return the favor by like, sharing, following, that sort of thing, then you've probably wondered, well, how is this going to benefit people who aren't part of the Creators Club? And there's benefits for literally everyone who does this. So the people who aren't part of the Creators Club and can't participate in the Creators Club fund, what they're doing is they're building a base. And so even if they don't have a product or a service that they're marketing now, they're building an audience so that when they do find a product or a service that they can market, they have an audience to market to. There's also people who don't want to necessarily market a product or a service. They have an idea that they want to share. And those people are doing the same thing. They're building a base of people that have consented to receive their marketing information. And so I wanted to talk about that a minute because that's where I fall in that. I'm affiliated with a company that provides services like trust management, trust setup, private trusts, that sort of thing, and wealth and asset management. And so if you scroll through my videos, you'll learn a lot about that company and what they do. And so we have a tendency to do a lot of teaching and not a lot of selling, because the purpose of, we really can't serve anyone who doesn't know what we do. They have to have at least a general basic idea of what it is that we do. And so we study law, we study procedure, we study litigation, we keep an eye on the Supreme Court rulings that relate to trusts and estates, family court, stuff like that. There are some cases that we don't handle, but to see if your specific case or your specific issue is something that we do handle, you can simply send a text to the number in the profile, and it won't cost you a thing, and they'll do an evaluation and let you know if you're somebody that we can help. So what I do in relation to the Opulent Fountain Group is I do a lot of the marketing. So we've got a very, very talented keynote speaker. He teaches at high quality law schools and groups of people who study law. He regularly gets a 5-figure speaking fee. And that's who's speaking in most of the videos that I have produced so far. And he's also got a really long history in pro se support and pro se litigation as it relates to estate management and trusts and trust law. He's been studying for 27 years, but teaching for 23. Back in the 2000s, there was a publication called the American Bulletin, and that magazine was printed across the country and delivered millions of subscriptions. They used to send stacks of them into the federal prisons on subscriptions, and that's where the sovereignty and the private law movement really started becoming more mainstream. There's been a very small group of people who've functioned in private law throughout history because they just knew that it was there, and they used it, and they passed that law down to their children and the grandchildren and that sort of thing. But it wasn't actually propagated among the lay people until around the 2000s, and it started kind of building up steam, and now it's really exploded. And there's a lot of people that now the the mainstream media is saying, oh, sovereign citizens, they're domestic terrorists, whatever. If you've been part of the movement for a while, you know not to listen to anything the mainstream media says, or not much of anything. But I haven't been very public. There's a lot of reasons for that, and I want to change that because I do have a lot to say, and I got to get over the nervousness of talking on camera. I've always had a fear of cameras and struggled with it, and but it's just time to lay my fears aside and overcome it and do things the right way. And fighting with people online in comments sections is not the right way. So I'm trying to behave myself and be a good girl. And that may come one day, who knows? But if you want to learn how the law applies to you as a living man or woman, scroll through my previous videos, and I'll be putting out more videos like this of me talking. I may do some lives, but I want to hear your stories. I want to hear how you fared in court, in traffic court, or whatever. You know, there's a whole lot of different ways that people are using this new body of law. Well, it's new to us, body of law that, you know, has been, you know, essentially hidden from us for so long. And one of the ways, actually something that I want to touch on, is Greenville, South Carolina, just posted a story saying, well, our foster care system is so full and overrun with these poor, neglected, abandoned, and abused kids that we need so many more families to foster kids. You know, please help, you know, if you can do so. There ain't that many bad parents out there. There may be some who aren't as good a parent as you are, but, you know, removing these kids for, anyway, okay, let me start over again. They need to stop looking at the foster care system and start looking at the system that takes kids and puts them in foster care. And I had this conversation with an attorney in Greenville, South Carolina, because I've seen this same thing in the media in my town, Tallahassee, and in other towns as well. You know, where they're just overrun with foster kids, and they need more foster families, and, you know, 1 out of 3 kids doesn't have a place to go. Well, stop taking kids out of parents' homes for not wearing shoes outside and stupid stuff like that. I tell you, there are people, and I know this from personal experience, who have their kids removed from them over rumors and lies. That happens. And the requirements for evidence in court is, you know, somebody needs to say something. And that's all it takes. And if you don't think it can happen to you, you just wait. Hopefully it won't happen to you, but it can. And I can promise you it can and will happen to somebody close to you. So if this isn't something that bothers you, it needs to. Also, the agencies that remove children from their homes, they are fiscally motivated to do so because they get federal matching funds for every child that they remove. Now this is, you know, put out into the public as, oh, well, we're gonna help these poor, neglected, abandoned, and abused children. And then you have a man who can't see his kids because he drinks on the weekends. And then you have a man who can't see his kids because his mother-in-law hates his guts. And then you have a woman who is removed from her children because she doesn't have a job. Or you have a guy who can't see his kids because he is behind on child support. The stories are just horrendous, and it never ends. There are thousands of people in the child support groups who are, some of them may be valid, you know, that there was abuse or something. For the most part, though, they're good people who need to be reunited with their kids. You know, you take somebody's kids away for a weekend, give them some services, help them learn how to be a better parent, give them some support. You know, don't just leave them out there. They're not doing anything to improve the situation for anybody by removing these kids and then charging the parents and the federal government to pay for the foster care services. And if you follow the money, the child protection agencies they will literally qualify a non-removal as a removal because they have a quota that they have to make so they can get the level of federal support that they are accustomed to or that they're shooting for. And this happens with, you know, management knows what numbers they have to hit to get to that next level for that tranche of funding. And so they manage their agency according to that, and has very little to do with, you know, the safety and well-being of the children. And also there's a lot of divorce cases that end up, and that's a whole different subject, but I will go into it if y'all want me to. The parental alienation and bitter baby mamas and baby daddies and some of the crazy stuff that people do using their kids as weapons against other parents. And the one thing, I don't have a huge following. It's growing because of this TikTok trend and some of the other marketing I'm doing. But one thing that we're not gonna do over here is criticize people for having their kids in the system, because number one, I am a person whose kids wound up in the system through no fault of my own. And the story is just horrendous, and I'm not gonna go into it because I will cry. But what I will say is my story is not nearly as bad as some of the ones that are out there. And it's very hurtful. And the parents who get erased from their children's lives suffer a fate, I would say in a lot of cases, it's worse than death. And if they're able to survive it, a lot of them don't, because suicide is a real thing and depression does kill people. If they're able to survive it, they typically live a very wounded existence after that, and they don't need your criticism. They don't need your finger pointing. They don't need anybody telling them, well, you should have been a better parent, or you must have done something wrong. They don't need that shit. Please don't do that. What we are gonna do is offer a shoulder to cry on, and supportive words, encouraging words, and diving into the laws that these agencies are bringing into the courtrooms. That's another thing. The courts don't work for the public or private men and women who access the public. So when they say that justice should be free, if you look in your state's constitution, it'll say that everyone is entitled to free access to justice. And then you go to file a case and it costs you $400 or $250 or whatever a percentage of the amount of the case to get justice. Unless, the public prosecutor brings the case, in which case he actually pays the fee. And the reason he pays the fee is because he's hoping and banking on you not knowing who you are. He'll bring a case against you, but he won't bring a case to protect you. And I've found that out firsthand too, and I'll name names on that if you guys want me to. So there is no such thing, well, there is such a thing as free access to justice. You just have to know how to access it. And if you want to file a case or a federal claim, or if you want some help fighting your family court, I said I was going to not help with family court stuff because it is so painful and it's so draining to do so. But I will have like a general, principles and tell you what I know. I just can't get it. I can't help people on a personal level, but we do have people in the opulent fountain who can. It just can't be me because it's too painful to me and it's too hurtful. But we have resources that will help you. So, go through my previous videos and, watch them, hit the like button. I could use the like and the engagement. And we also have a Telegram group where we do a live Q&A with the gentleman I was telling you about. His moniker is TYB. And he does question and answer sessions on this Sunday 3 o'clock call. So I'll put the link to the Telegram group so that you can access the group and be ready for that call, that live Q&A at 3 o'clock. And then it's not the kind of Q&A where everybody can talk all at one time. It's just, it's managed, I try to keep only one mic open at a time because I need a clean audio. And but he'll get to all the questions. And if you have a case that you want specific help with, we can arrange a private session with him. He's very talented with litigation. He's a very good teacher. He is a dynamic and powerful speaker. And you'll see that, you can see that in the videos that I post. You'll also see that on the calls when he starts on a topic and he goes, through the, if you have a notebook, keep it handy and try to take notes and then listen to the audio. When you finish, go through the notes and then listen to the audio again. And that will help you to kind of gel the concepts with the words. He moves very fast because he's been functioning in this for a long, long time. And so it's like talking to an engineer when you're not quite mechanically inclined, so sometimes you have to slow him down and unpack what he's saying, but the truth is there, the help is there, the guidance is there, and knowing who you are is the key to winning your case. And if you start learning this stuff early enough, the time to learn is before there is an issue. because you establish your capacity and your standing as an individual. And then when these attacks come from the state, and they will, they run into a lack of jurisdiction because they don't have jurisdiction over living men and women. So when you establish your status and standing as a living man or woman, and you do business under a different entity that has a hold harmless agreement with the living man and woman, there's no liability, there's no crime, there's no way they can get you on a statutory proceeding. The only time there is a crime is if a person, a living man or woman, is injured or their property is damaged. So theft, fraud, these things can be breached between the statutory and the common law. So there is enforcement for assault and things like that. You don't have to worry about not being protected when you should be protected, but you also don't have to worry about not being attacked when you should not be attacked. And that's what we're running into is, we've got kind of a runaway legal system. We're seeing it in the news with the Trump trial. It's biased and politicized and weaponized, but it's weaponized all the way down to the city police, the sheriff's departments. In some cases, there are some sheriffs and some police who take their oath very seriously. However, before the problem gets to them, a lot of times their paycheck will be threatened if they do or don't do certain things. That is still happening. Now, I'm hearing rumors of a massive arrest event being planned, but it's not concrete, it's not promised. So we have to move forward as if things are going to stay the way they are. We have to operate in the system that currently exists. If something happens to change the legal system, I'm all for it, and I'll be thrilled, as will a lot of people, because we can just relax a little bit and start living in our private capacity as a man or woman, which is truly the spiritual path. If it's your sincerely held religious belief that you are a child of the Most High, then the lilies of the field live better than you do, because you have to work to provide clothes for your family. Unless you understand how to live as that child of the Most High. Once you understand how to live as that child of the Most High, the lilies of the field become your counterparts. And there's a lot to unpack in that little short statement there, but the truth and the reality of the whole thing is that we've been living in a fictitious, made-up society that was imposed upon us. And I don't know how many people had the same experience as me. I remember being 18 years old and just becoming responsible for my own bills and just driving down the road in my car when I should have been traveling in my private capacity, and just thinking, why do I have to pay for all these things that are necessary for my survival? If God is my daddy, if I'm the child of the King, if that's true, it really made me question what my belief system. And I'm glad that I did, because that has evolved as well. And here I am in my 50s with a much better understanding of how things work, how my spiritual development is closely related to my physical provision. And what really is important is family and your friends and the close associations that you develop over time. That's where the real value in your life is built. The value is not in the houses and the cars. However, it's hard to develop friendships when you don't have the resources to sustain yourself, because number one, you're spending all your time trying to find the resources that you need. If you don't know where your next meal is coming from, that's what you're focused on. You don't have time to build relationships, or time to show up for your friends, or time to, be there when they need you, because you got too much to do. You got to go get that bag. When you don't have to worry about survival, and you're confident that you'll be provided for and taken care of by the Most High, the way that we're told that it works, then you can answer the phone when it rings. You can meet someone for coffee. You can be there for them when they need you. You become a better friend, a better parent, and I believe a better, contributor to society, whether that's as an employee or as an employer, co-worker, teammate, whatever. You just are able to relax and take care of the things that matter. And the things that matter are the people in your life, your children, your grandchildren, your parents, grandparents, your family, being there for them and helping them solve problems with your unique contribution to the family, that sort of thing. So we're committed to helping people on a one-on-one basis to solve their problems and get the provision that they need. And some of the people that they're able to learn these principles and live very, very comfortable, opulently comfortable lives, just by taking the principles that we teach and applying them, over time to different scenarios, different business deals. We do have some investment opportunities amongst ourselves, amongst group members and that sort of thing. Those things do develop. And so, we want people to be part of the group and avail themselves of those opportunities when they arise, because, there's nothing better than doing business with someone who understands you as a man or a woman and treats you as a man or a woman, not as a corporate entity. So, communities get developed and businesses are blossomed from some conversations. And so having a high level group of people who are not focused on, beating a criminal charge or, the basics of sovereignty, the private travel. We do talk about the private travel thing some, but the focus is the opulent side of life, the abundant side of life, and that comes from provision that will surprise you. It can come out of nowhere. It may be just enough. It may be just what you need at the time. But there are some stories of, massive overflow of abundance, and that's where the opulence comes from. And the methods and techniques that are taught in the group they're not, nothing's illegal, nothing that's against the law. But a lot of times they're not understood, or they're not areas that traditional lawyers or attorneys can practice in. They're not familiar with it. And so there's some confusion on that, but once people understand that it's just a matter of jurisdiction, they get comfortable and then start operating in their private capacity. We don't promote using the IRS for anything, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, we saw a lot of people who missed a step or sent something to the wrong office or filled out a form the wrong way and got in a lot of trouble, or they got a $5,000 frivolous filing fee. So we have in the title of the group a tax form that was really, really popular because people thought they would acquire homes and cars and that sort of thing. And maybe some did. I don't know anybody who had any success with it, but the reason we put that there is because it was a big movement, and people needed a little guidance on it because there was not a complete package of training that could take someone from point A to point B safely. And so Ty wanted to step in there and put that kind of safety net there for people. And he did for a lot of people. There were a lot of people who started having problems with the IRS because of the filings that they did coming out of this movement that was being talked about. And so Ty's been helping, with their stuff and helping them get out of that $5,000 frivolous filing fee. That was a mess. But we don't want to approach the problems from a problem standpoint. we want to approach the situation itself from a solutions standpoint. So what I mean by that is if you have a driver's license and your car is registered with the state and you're speeding, you're going 50 and a 35 and you get a speeding ticket, deregistering your car, giving up your driver's license and establishing yourself as a private living man who's not required to have a driver's license or insurance is not going to get you out of that speeding ticket unless, something amazing happens. And the amazing things do happen, but typically you would want to have that standing established already, and you would want to have the local authorities on notice that you stand and you do business in that capacity or another capacity that's equally protected before you had an interaction with law enforcement. And then you'd need to know how to handle yourself in an interaction with law enforcement, because like I said, this body of law is becoming a lot more prevalent, and the people who support individual sovereignty, they look just like you and me. They put their pants on one leg at a time. You can't tell the difference between them and an absolute tyrant, especially when they put on the uniform. And so because you don't know what you're going to be getting when you see the blue lights behind you, it's best to approach, if you want to stand in that capacity, it's best to set it up before you have an interaction with law enforcement. I came to this body of law after having massive problems with family court. And so I started on the sovereignty movement. I learned about the private travel, slowly learned about wealth management and investments. And it hasn't been an easy road because I kept mixing what I was learning with I'm trying to solve my problems. And it wasn't jiving. I didn't feel like I was having any success. And the reason I wasn't having success is because those contracts were in place when I had these interactions. I'm obligated to meet these dumbass contracts. And that's kind of a given, So there are really deep teachings that can negate these contracts. But they're deep, they're complicated, they're difficult. So if you're new to the individual sovereignty movement, just take the step and set up your estate prior to having problems. And then you'll encounter people who've been doing this for 30, 50, 80 years, and they can help you with some of those deeper private law concepts that are, they're difficult to grasp, but it's very hard to find someone who can teach them in a way that's understandable and digestible. There's hours and hours long audio of Gene Keating and David Straight and, some of the other people, especially the new guys, just hours and hours of, they talk really fast, they say a lot of stuff that sounds really good and it sounds like it should work, and if you try it, guess what, you're going to jail. So, my take on it is get it set up prior to having problems. And then, once you do have your private standing established and your local authorities on notice, and you want to, also notify the federal authorities, then live your life in such a way that you're not harming anybody. Some people are very extreme with it, and they do, want to live off grid and, get their Lloydal titles and land patents and never interact with other people and not do business with fiat currency. That's all the respect in the world, because it's not hard, it's not easy to do. It's a big change of lifestyle from what we're accustomed to live that kind of lifestyle, and I have all the respect in the world for them. I don't want to live isolated, away from people. And so what I prefer to do is to do business in the name of an entity that's not the all caps name, because Well, and if you watch the videos in my profile, same thing. You know, he teaches that you don't want to do business in your name ever again. There's a reason for it, because you can enforce your sovereignty easier through a corporation. Whenever agencies or regulatory authorities or whatever, they want to come at you and say, well, you have this and that that we have jurisdiction over. You can put things in place that can protect you from overreach, from government overreach. And that happens quite a bit, especially in the areas of family law and regular administrative proceedings. And so during this little pump where we're getting to the point where there is going to be, and I believe there is going to be, a cleansing of the judicial system. But up until the time that it happens, just, come and study with us a little bit and learn. First of all, I want you to see the lifestyle that some of these people are able to live. They don't have to live in the woods. And, a lot of these people, you wonder how in the world does somebody have that kind of lifestyle? Well, they operate privately and they don't have 40% of their income snatched up by the government. So, anyway, I'll put the links in the descriptions, and I'll make sure that you have access to how to follow us, how to join us on Sundays at 3, and educate yourselves and protect your families. Thank you.